Good morning, everybody. Hola, buenos dias. And I think we don't need the pulpit mic, just mine, Nico. Mi nombre es Timoteo. Good morning. I'm Reverend Tim Kutzmark, and I serve gratefully as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. We want to welcome everybody on our virtual campus. Give it up for the virtual campus. Woo. And because I don't want you to feel left out, welcome to everybody on our Alluvial Avenue Church campus. And could the virtual campus please clap for Alluvial Ave? Oh, we can hear it. It's thunderous. It's thunderous. We are one congregation in many places. If you are among the lucky to be on our virtual campus this morning, now is the perfect time to share this live stream on your Facebook or YouTube feed with your friends and followers. Please don't be bashful. You can invite them to join you at church this morning. This morning we acknowledge that our Alluvial Avenue Church campus sits within the traditional homelands of the Yokuts and Mono peoples. As Unitarian Universalists, we welcome you no matter your race, cultural of origin, age, spiritual background, or religious beliefs. We welcome you no matter your disabilities, the amount of money in your bank account, your level of education, or your neurodiversity. You're welcome with or without documentation, con papeles y sin papeles. You're welcome if you are lesbian, gay, bi, trans, non-binary, gender fluid, or questioning. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. I want to give a special welcome this morning to a longtime church member who we haven't seen for a while. Bill is with us. Bill Noblet, welcome. Good to have you back. If you are on our virtual campus and you wish to share a personal joy, sorrow, concern, or gratitude, both in the chat box but also here on the Alluvial Ave campus, we need you to type that in the chat box right now. This is the moment to type your joy, sorrow, gratitude, or concern, and then we're going to write them down, and the ushers will run them up to me, and I can include them later in the service. If you don't do it now in the chat box, there won't be enough time to include them. As you know, we are in the midst of our annual pledge drive. This is, as we like to say, that festive time when members and friends of the church let us know how much we will generously share in terms of financial support during the upcoming fiscal year, which runs July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Your pledge and knowing that allows us to build our budget based on the total amount of money we expect to be donated from the church's members and friends. And we've just completed week 3, and we're about to enter into the 4th week and final week of the pledge drive. And I'm happy to announce our next total. Drum roll, please. $449,666. Now we have to stop just a moment. 666. Just think of what Cross City is going to say about the Unitarians pledging 666. We do not want to be identified as the Antichrist. This is not an auspicious number. So, Ian, will you be willing to donate $1 extra today? Ian, yay, give it up for Ian. Another drum roll. Our new total is $449,667. And I know you're wondering, that is 73.25% of our total goal of $612,892. This leaves $163,225 to be pledged in the next 7 days, the 4th and final week of our annual pledge drive. Now, there's still about 110 people or families who have not yet renewed your pledge. So we need you to do that this week. It's going to make it so much easier on our volunteer pledge team if they don't have to start sending emails and texting over and over over and over until you make that pledge. So it would be really appreciated. You can stop at the pledge drive table on Alluvial Ave, or you can email us at pledge@UUFresno. And why don't we all together say that address? pledge@UUFresno.org. So now, in the chat box, in person, or in the silence of your beating heart, let's take a moment to say good morning, buenos dias, to each other.
It's nice. You relive it. Are you playing it all next month? And one day I was able to do it and have it with
The socially distanced side is especially non-conforming today. They refuse to sit down. As we prepare to begin our service and enter into that sacred time of connecting to that which is within us, but also that which is greater than us, let us allow the sound of the tingsha to center us, to calm us, to guide our way forward.
One, 2, 3, 4.
I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change's gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keeps telling me, don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me down. Back on my knees. Oh, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long.
Hola a todos. This is Jamie, whose heartfelt pledge drive testimonial you will watch shortly.
And this, oh, thank you. And this is Lisa, who serves gratefully as our board of trustees, or as our past president on board of trustees, and who also, is team leader for the Mosaic Makers team.
The Mosaic Makers team is charged with helping our church live more fully into its values by being a multicultural and multiracial congregation.
If you are on our virtual campus and you have a chalice or a candle, bring it close as we will be lighting it soon. Our chalice lighting words come from Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Gary Kowalski.
In this quiet hour, may our spirits be renewed.
In this gathering of friends, may we be ready to extend ourselves to those in need and with trust to receive the hand that is offered.
In this community of ideals, may we remember the principles that guide us and reflect upon those things that give meaning to our lives, renewing our dedication to serve the highest that we know.
In this time of worship, may our minds be open to new truth and our hearts be receptive to love as we give thanks for this life we are blessed to share.
In that spirit, we invite you to light your chalice or candle at home. Reverend Tim, will you please light the chalice on our Alluvial Avenue campus?
I would be delighted to, Lisa and Jake.
All right, let's rise now in body or spirit and join in singing our song of praise, Fire of Commitment.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
From the light of days, remember, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then
I invite us to speak together the words of our mission statement. La misión de la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno es amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Please be seated. I know in the past week, with so many of the sights and sounds that we have been experiencing, it's easy for our bodies to constrict in tension and our breathing to grow more shallow. And so let's take a moment to reconnect to that centering and healing power of the human breath. And so together, let's take a nice deep breath in, breathing in peace. We hold the moment. We breathe out love. Oh, thank you. We're going to just, yeah, thank you. Oh, I was like in a groove, man. So let's take another breath in, breathing in peace. We hold the moment, and as we breathe out love, the lights lower, and wonder of wonders, our annual pledge drive testimony begins.
What I most love about the UU Church of Fresno is the inclusivity of the church and the interconnected web that we're all a part of. I feel connected with the members of the church, yet we're all on our own spiritual journeys, but we're all connected. When you pull up to the campus, you'll see a Black Lives Matter banner, and that is eye-opening. That's amazing to see that as a Black woman in Fresno, California. I felt so comfortable coming here just from the banner, you know, that I was welcome, you know, and I like the inclusivity about gay rights and gender, non-binary folks, lesbians, gays. I feel very at home here being a Black gay woman. I definitely think we can thrive together as one congregation in many places by the new addition to the online service. Because when you're not able to do a in-person service, you're able to connect anywhere around California, around the United States. I know we have several members that even connect from different countries. Through COVID, I was very isolated, and I started going regularly on a daily basis during COVID, attending in my home online. And even though it wasn't an in-person service, I still felt so connected with the congregation and with Reverend Tim, and just felt like I wasn't alone, and I was able to have, even for that one day, I was having spiritual practice, and it was so wonderful in making that connection. I think it's important for members to fund and support the church financially, because it is an important aspect of the community, and it gives so much joy myself and balance in my life and healing. It's brought so much healing that I want to give back. I want to give to that growing church community and the services that they provide.
So, savoring the warmth and message that Jamie brought us again, deja vu. We take a nice deep breath in, breathing in peace. We hold, we breathe out much needed love into the world. And yet again, together, breathing in peace, we hold, we transform it to love, we breathe out love. One last time together, breathe in peace, we hold, we breathe out love. We continue breathing together, breathing into and through the pain and struggle, the joys and blessings of the last week. And as we breathe, we allow that breath, perhaps just in our imagination, to carry us back over the last week, the last 7 days of our living. Two questions emerge. In the past week, how did you use the gift of that extra hour of light at the end of the day? And in the last week, where did you see, hear, or experience beauty? Holding on to that memory of beauty, we transition into our time of sharing of joys, sorrows, gratitudes, and concerns. On our virtual campus, some of us shared in the chat box, others mailed their joys and sorrows in advance. And here in the sanctuary, some of us stopped at the small table at the entrance to our Alluvial Ave campus to share. And from our virtual campus, Christina has a joy celebrating the song Food, Glorious Food from the musical Oliver. And her sorrow, Christina, from the virtual campus, is that there is still hunger in the Central Valley, her sorrow. Longtime and beloved church member Linda Mack is celebrating that her great-granddaughter, Melissa Ellen, was born healthy last Wednesday. Welcome. Welcome, Melissa Ellen. You have a pretty awesome great-grandma, let me tell you. Aubrey is grateful for the virtual service. Isaiah is one of our children in our youth program, and they are feeling grateful for their home this week. And Hannah is very grateful for the recognition that many church members have given her for singing at church. Every note warms my heart and reaffirms my belonging here. Thank you. Thank you for the gift of your voice. And we have two sorrows today. Debbie Newman is sad about the death of her aunt Inez Haynes, who died on Friday at 94 years old. And Jackie is also mourning Inez's death, the death of her sister, Inez Haynes, who died 94 years of rich living and loving. We celebrate her life. We also share a collective sorrow for what is continuing to unfold in Ukraine. If you would like to grieve for all that has been lost and will continue to be lost on our virtual campus, we invite you to type the letter G for grieve into the chat box. We also want to extend our heartfelt love and our deepest sympathies to longtime church member and church pillar and matriarch Nancy Richardson on the death of her husband Eugene Crum after a long and hard illness. Nancy and Jean were married for 37 years. And Nancy, we circle you and your family with love, with prayers, and our care. We lift up as well the names of our beloveds, those unable to be with us. Laura G., who continues her treatment. Judy P., Molly K., Glenda R., Pat M., Al G., and Brendan E., who was hospitalized again for another surgery and is back at home. We also want to lift up that those among us who are pagan and earth-based, celebrating Ostara, the Wiccan holiday that celebrates the spring equinox today, the first day of spring. The word Ostara comes from the Anglo-Saxon goddess name Estra, and Estra represents spring and new beginnings. We continue our celebration of Women's History Month. And even as I say that, I think there's almost a disconnect there. It should be Herstory Month, not his story, because we have far too much his stories in this world. We have now passed, well past the 2-year mark of our pandemic shutdown here in Fresno. We have been living in the reality of COVID for over 2 years, having now entered our 3rd year of COVID. That seems unfathomable. And at this time, at this mark, we want to celebrate and appreciate first responders. We want to celebrate healthcare workers in hospitals and nursing homes. We celebrate scientists who have done so much to keep us safe. We celebrate teachers at the elementary and high school level. The challenges you have faced are beyond description. We celebrate parents, grandparents, and other caregivers and guardians of young children and teens. Your work is hard enough normally, let alone during a pandemic. We celebrate you. And I hope you will join me in celebrating our hardworking, nimble, and devoted church staff team. And so, for all that has been shared, for all that we hold in the sacred silence of our hearts, and for all those who on this day have no one to remember them, no one to say their name with gentleness and care, we light our candle of community by our remembering. May we and they be blessed. We light a second candle this morning for the over 6.09 million citizens of the world who have lost their lives in this pandemic, 970,000 of whom are citizens of this country. And so, in the light of so much, our call to meditation. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Quando respiro, respiro paz. Quando exhalo, exhalo amor. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Quando respiro, respiro paz. Quando exhalo, exhalo amor. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Quando respiro, respiro paz. Quando exhalo, exhalo amor.
Our words of prayer or reflection come from Joan Javier Duval. Let us pray. Holy mystery, Spirit of life, Fuente de amor, silent presence, uncertain bearer of the weight of it all. In these quiet moments, we listen. We listen for the maybe still breathing, perhaps still whispering, faintest sign of the universal good. We listen between the cacophony of distractions pulling us toward untruth and falsehood. We listen amidst the tumult of these days. May we, abiding mystery, hang on, hold on when all is in question, when all is in doubt. May we lead each other back into connection, back into the bonds of humanity that help us to know each other as beloved. May we beckon love and justice and mercy with our own whispers, with our shouts, with our cries, until all know themselves part of the circle of love. Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
I have the faith that sees the invisible, expects the incredible, receives the impossible. Faith that can conquer anything. Faith that uproots my problems. Faith to know that God can solve them. Faith to envision my freedom. I have faith that can conquer anything.
from our virtual campus all the way from our sibling congregation in Brooklyn, New York. That was pretty amazing. So part of me thinks, how do we even begin to sing after that one? But we're going to add our voices and have the faith that we can do it. I love this next song that Hannah is going to lead us in. Where are we going? Heaven knows where we are going, but we're going to get there. So let's stand as we are willing and able as Hannah leads us in We Will Get There.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We're going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, 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 yeah.
The mic turned completely off, and I'm going to test. Good. Give it up, Florenzo, improv. This is how you know we're not pre-recorded. So we begin with words from the great social justice activist Angela Davis. In a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. Last week, we talked about the history and creation of the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism. A very quick review. We, as Unitarian Universalists, like to say that we're a living tradition, a living tradition. What does that mean? It means the tradition part is we have amazing roots that go back to Jesus of Nazareth and even beyond into Judaism, and a rich history that brings us to this moment. But it is a living tradition, which means it's not static, it's not frozen in time, but it is engaged, it is energetic, it reacts to the knowledge, the changes, and the progress of the times. So it is a faith tradition that is constantly shifting and changing to serve the present moment, while never losing the key values that we've held onto through this history, this tradition. Most of the Christian churches around us have what we call a creed. A creed is a set of statements, a set of beliefs that someone else figured out, usually a long time ago, and it's been defined as true with a capital T. And in order to be part of that group, you have to say, yes, I'm going to think that way. Or as my dad would always say, you cross your fingers, put it behind your back, and say you do. But a creed is about how you think, and it's to have us all think the same way. But Unitarian Universalists believe that we need not think alike to love alike. And that is something that Francis David, who was one of our ancestors, who was locked in prison and died there because he dared to think freely. That is what Francis David said. We need not think alike to love alike. And love is at the core of Unitarian Universalism and what we call a covenantal faith. Not a creed, but we have a covenant at the core of Unitarian Universalism. A covenant is a set of promises that we make to each other in the world about how we're going to be in relationship with each other. A creed is about how you think. A covenant is about what we do. What we do. And that covenant is a promise that we make. A covenant is part of the living tradition. So that covenant, or those set of relational doings, changes over time. It grows, deepens, and changes as our living tradition of Unitarian Universalism grows, deepens, and changes to be more relevant and authentic in this moment in time. The version of our covenant, the 7 principles, was approved in 1984. It is almost unrecognizable from the original covenant of Unitarian Universalism that was created in 1961. Someday, there's going to be a brand new version of our covenant, our principles, that will probably be mostly unrecognizable from our current beloved principles, because this faith is going to continue to grow, deepen, and change. And I think that is one of the great, great strengths of Unitarian Universalism. So even though, it's good. So if you were here last week, we did share those principles, but to remind us, and if you weren't here last week, we want to just feel like you're right on board. So would you join me in saying aloud our beloved 7 principles? The 7 principles and purposes of Unitarian Universalism. We covenant, there's that word again, covenant to affirm and promote, 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. All existence, I love it, of which we are a part. Give it up for the 7 principles. Now, these are the religious principles that make us who we are as a Unitarian Universalist people of faith. They are our Unitarian Universalist ways of being in relationship with each other and the world. This is what makes us one. But, as we've been saying, we are a living tradition, which means something created in 1984 should be able to evolve to address new relevancies that couldn't even be imagined in 1984 or were deliberately ignored in 1984. Recently, some Unitarian Universalists, especially Unitarian Universalists who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color, have been asking, are these enough? Are these 7 principles enough? And the answer for some is no. 155 Unitarian Universalist congregations, in a grassroots effort, have adopted a new 8th principle to address our majority white denomination's growing understanding of just how pernicious and deadly white supremacy culture is to Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Before us, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California, is this question. Do we want to become the 156th congregation out of 2,000 Unitarian Universalist congregations in this country to adopt the 8th principle on a local level and force the issue to be addressed at the national level? Nope. Sounds like I don't even have to do the sermon then. This change in our principles is being driven by individual congregations like ours, if we so choose. Now, it's really important for us to know and for us to own the fact that although we have many noted racial justice crusaders who were Unitarian and Universalists, overall, Unitarian and Universalist institutions have a shameful history when it comes to race. Many of our New England congregations and then others across the country were actively involved in genocide against indigenous peoples. Our congregations and our ministers, our spiritual leaders, participated in the destruction of indigenous cultures and the theft of tribal lands. Many of our East Coast congregations profited from the slave trade. Many of our ministers in the 1800s and beyond were trained at Harvard University, which was founded in 1636 as the first institution of higher learning in America and this country's first seminary to train ministers. According to APM reports, slavery and the slave economy thread through the first 150 years of Harvard's history. Slaves made beds and meals for Harvard presidents and Unitarian ministers. And many of the school's major donors in its first centuries made their fortunes in industries either based on or connected to slavery, which means that any Unitarian Universalist minister's Master of Divinity degree from Harvard drips with the blood of slaves. And any financial assistance a Unitarian Universalist seminary student receives from Harvard comes from an endowment initially funded by the slave economy. And your minister on this chancel benefited from a degree and financial support from that endowment funded initially by the slave economy. From the mid-1800s through the 1960s, Unitarian and Universalist institutions actively thwarted ministers of color, destroyed their careers. They also worked against the success of Black Unitarian congregations and schools. The question is often asked, why aren't there majority Black Unitarian Universalist congregations and schools? The truth is, they were started, and then they were destroyed by Unitarian and Universalist institutions. In the late 1960s, for most of us, our lifetime, the Unitarian Universalist Association promised to partially right those wrongs by investing several $1 million into a newly formed Black Unitarian Universalist organization. The next year, they withheld the money, breaking the promise, the covenant, and causing many Black Unitarian Universalists to leave the denomination in disgust, giving up completely on Unitarian Universalism. According to the leaders who initiated the Eighth Principle Project, in 1997, the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly voted to commit to intentionally becoming anti-racist, anti-oppression, multicultural institution. In the few years after this vote, there was some good progress, including programs such as Journey Towards Wholeness, what I did when I first stepped into a Unitarian Universalist congregation, the Jubilee anti-racism training workshops, and the inclusion of process evaluation at meetings to see who had a voice, and also hiring multicultural consulting services. But, not surprisingly, in a majority white denomination, the funding dried up when money got tight and other priorities took center stage. Until just a few years ago, 2016, when many Unitarian Universalist religious professionals of color, outraged at the racially biased hiring practices at the national level and weary of racism and aggression from congregants at the local level, these religious professionals of color demanded a racial reckoning within Unitarian Universalism. The last 6 years have been a time of painful and honest truth-telling and learning as we came face to face with how white supremacy culture manifests in our own Unitarian Universalist institutions. Combine this with a growing awareness of the new Jim Crow, the school-to-prison pipeline for Black youth, anti-voting legislation that is sweeping the country, and the state of policing in our communities of color, it has become clear that we Unitarian Universalists need to be more intentional about addressing racism within ourselves and within our institutions, as well as within our communities. The eighth principle is one way of being more intentional about this work. Congregations currently covenant together to affirm and promote those 7 principles, but none of them specifically address racism. The proposed 8th principle changes that and came from a feeling that we need something to renew our commitment to this work, to hold ourselves accountable, and to fulfill the potential of our existing principles. Now, one common reaction to the idea of an 8th principle is to ask, isn't racial equality already covered in our first principle? We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Now, I love this first principle. It's a beautiful way of saying all lives matter. In theory, this is true. In practice, it is not, which is why we, as a Unitarian Universalist congregation, feel religiously compelled to display our Black Lives Matter banners and our Black Lives Matter flag. The 8th proposed principle is a way of saying the lives of people of color should matter as much as white lives, but in America, they don't. And we want to be held accountable to actively create the country, community, religion, and congregation where they do. So let me give us an example of where our Fresno church leadership has already done that, changed the way we think about how we welcome and who we welcome. Many of us know our mission statement. We're called to, and if you know it, you can say it with me, love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. Fewer of us know the end statement of our congregation. How many people even know we have an ENDS, E-N-D-S statement in our congregation? Okay, a few of us. So, the end statement is like a vision statement. It captures how we know we will be actually fulfilling our mission, the mission that we just said. It's also how the minister, me, how I'm evaluated by the board of trustees and whether I'm doing a decent job or not. It's how the staff is evaluated in guiding the church in this direction. It's also how church leaders and the board of trustees itself guides itself in this direction. Now, our ends statement has 3 parts. The ends, E-N-D-S, of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, and I love this first one, to transform lives toward compassion. Let's just say it because it's so wonderful. To transform lives toward compassion. The second is to foster and nurture a welcoming religious community, period, at the end of that. And the third, to create peace, justice, and sustainability in our wider community and world. Those were the ends when I arrived to become your minister in August of 2015. When I arrived, many younger church members of color and some of our older white members were direct and explicit in their expectation for my ministry here. They yearned for a congregation that would de-center whiteness and lift up other voices and perspectives. They yearned for a congregation that one day could be truly multiracial and multicultural. They demanded, how can we hold our minister, staff, and church leadership accountable to decentering whiteness, accountable for laying the groundwork that would, in time, sprout the seeds of living more fully into our vision of being truly multiracial, multicultural congregation. There was this yearning, but there was nothing explicitly calling us to do this hard work. And so, the board of trustees changed the end statement of the church to hold us all accountable to this deep yearning. The second ends statement, to foster and nurture a welcoming religious community, was expanded. That period was erased, and it now reads, to foster and nurture a welcoming religious community that is intentionally multiracial and multicultural and challenges racist biases and behaviors. That is how your minister is evaluated. That is how your staff is evaluated. That is how our church leadership is evaluated. Are we serving our mission in such a way that we are intentionally multiracial, multicultural, and challenging racist biases and behaviors? And dear ones, that is what the 8th principle wants to do for Unitarian Universalism as a whole. It's as simple and direct as that, and we've already done it here. Now, the draft language for the 8th principle that emerged from the grassroots level is complex, and I'm going to own it is wordy, and it will most likely eventually be simplified. But at this stage in its grassroots development, there is deliberate complexity because it seeks to address all the varied ways anti-racist work in the denomination has gone awry in the past and failed. So, the draft principle reads, we covenant to affirm and promote. So there's our word covenant. Affirm just means, yep, I'm going to put my heart on it. But promote means we're going to do more than just say, I like it. It means we're going to do something about it. We're going to promote it. And the first word is such a juicy, wonderful Unitarian Universalist word. The first word is journeying. Because as Unitarian Universalists, we believe that life is a spiritual journey that unfolds over time. So we start this new principle by saying it's going to be a journey. It's going to take a long time for it to happen, but transformation is at the core of who we are as Unitarian Universalists. And just to make sure we're not just aimlessly journeying, the next word is toward. We're going to journey toward something. We're not aimless. We're heading in, we would say, the right direction. And guess what it's heading toward? I love this next one, spiritual wholeness. So we are claiming up front that this work is religious work, this work is spiritual work, but by doing it, we are going to become more spiritually whole as individuals and as a people of faith. Okay, sounds good. We're going to journey towards spiritual wholeness. How's that going to happen? By working. So here again, we're saying this is going to take work. And I love this working because it connects to our mission, work for justice, trabajar por la justicia. So it's connecting us as a congregation to this larger work. And we're going to be working. Next is to build. We're going to create something. It's something that really doesn't exist right now. We are going to work to start constructing it. And what is it that we're going to build? We are going to build a diverse. We'll stop here because diversity in Unitarian Universalism is thought to be a good thing. In a lot of churches, diversity, anybody who's different, anything that doesn't fit the norm or the mold, get it out of the way so we can all be similar. We say our strength comes from diversity. And so we are going to build a diverse, next word, multicultural. The next word is a word that comes from the lexicon of Dr. Martin Luther King and some of our great civil rights leaders from the 60s. We are going to build a multicultural, beloved community. That is what Dr. Martin Luther King's vision was for this country, and we're saying we want to take that, and this is going to be our vision for Unitarian Universalism. It's not focused on individual wants and needs, but it puts the greater good of all and the community before the individual. And we're going to build this multicultural, beloved community. How? By our actions. Again, getting action into this thing because we have stopped doing it over and over and over throughout our history. We're going to make sure it's solid in this draft principle. And the next is so important, that accountably, we are naming up front, we are going to be judged on this, we are going to hold ourselves accountable, and there will be a way that this change will be measured. We're not going to be able to wiggle out of it this time. And we will accountably dismantle racism, but we don't stop there because we know that all oppression is intersectional, so we add and other oppressions, so sexism, ableism, ageism, imperialism, capitalism, and so much more. And we are going to dismantle this where we start in ourselves, because we all have pieces of that inside ourselves, and then by extension in our institutions, in our congregations, and in the larger denomination. So this is the draft of the eighth principle. We covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Now, I'm going to use my psychic power. I imagine there's at least one person out here today who says, I love the spirit of that draft, but can I do some rewrites so it rolls poetically and trippingly off my tongue? Our Board of Trustees and our Mosaic Makers team asks that we resist this temptation so that all the grassroots congregations are presenting the same language to the larger denomination, so we have one similar starting point nationally. I quote our Board of Trustees and our Mosaic Makers team. Can we change the wording before we approve it? This is what they say. To put it plainly, no. We can't change the wording. We are being asked to adopt the proposed wording of the eighth principle as it stands. The wording was created by Unitarian Universalists of color and other Unitarian Universalist activists deeply engaged in anti-racist work. It also has the support of BLUE, which is Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, the national black organization of UUs. It has already been adopted by 155 congregations. Adopting the wording as suggested by the creators shows unified support for the eighth principle and preserves the intent and spirit behind it. That is what the Board of Trustees says. That is what Mosaic Makers say. And as was the case for the 7 principles that came before it, which had extensive rewriting over a multi-year process, it is highly likely the language will change at the national level before it is approved. So, approving this draft language as it stands really boils down to one question. Will we be known as wordsmiths or Unitarian Universalists who work for justice? There will be 3 congregational eighth principle informational meetings with question and answer and discussion. And if someone says, can we rewrite these? What's the answer? No. The first of these will be today at noon right here on Alluvial Ave and right here on our virtual campus on Zoom. The next question and answer informational session will be Tuesday, April 26th at 10 a.m., Zoom only. Then another chance the next day, April 27th on Zoom only. There is Zoom for all 3 meetings, so our virtual campus is absolutely part of this process. That Zoom meeting, it's going to be put in the chat box right now, and it's number 99227033149. Then, after the conversation, because UUs have to converse and discuss, we will vote yay or nay at our congregational meeting on Sunday, May 15th at noon. Now, this is an incentive to become a member of the church at our upcoming New Member Sunday on April 10th, because being a member of the church allows us to vote and participate in this history-making moment for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. Voting on May 15th will allow us to actively be part of the living tradition of Unitarian Universalism as we grow, deepen, and change who we're gonna be as a religious people of faith. As author and pastor Cassidy Hall so powerfully states, may we participate in the revolution. A revolution that doesn't need us, but will define us. A revolution that doesn't need us, but will define us. We end with the words of a powerful and proud Black woman, author, activist, and educator Rachel Cargle. She rocks. She says, anti-racism work is not self-improvement work for white people. It doesn't end when white people feel better about what they've done. It ends when Black people are staying alive and they have their liberation. Que así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Everybody say, I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm on my way to the freedom line. I'm on my way to the freedom line. I'm on my way to the freedom line. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way to the freedom line. I'm on my way to the freedom line. I'm on my way to the freedom line. I'm on my way. Thank God I'm on my way. So come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come away with me to that land. The freedom was staying on free. I'm on my way with me to that land where it was staying on free. I'm on my way to the freedom was staying on free. I'm on my way to that land. Stay on the
all the way from the upper Midwest, Ann Arbor, Michigan, on our virtual campus, Unitarian Universalists across the country singing for justice. So we talked about the need for pledge in order to keep this congregation serving its mission. Part of it also, though, is those of us here on Alluvial Ave, and certainly those of us on our virtual campus, we also need special donations. Here in the Alluvial Ave, you can drop $1, you can drop $100, $1,000, we don't mind, in the baskets on the way out. On our virtual campus, there's a plethora of ways that you can make an additional contribution. In fact, Christina, thank you for sending that check in to me this week. I appreciate it. I have deposited it, and it has helped. Muchas gracias. So, in the spirit of giving, please join me in our words of offering. If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? May this church continue to be worthy of the many forms of your gifts.
We are thrilled that we're able to share today's 8th principal service with you.
We both support the adoption of the 8th principle because saying we are a welcoming congregation is clearly not enough. It is vital that we as a church become explicit about our ideals in regards to racial justice and connect our voices with action.
We hope you will all stay for the 8th principle discussion after the service on either our Alluvial Avenue campus or on our virtual campus via the Zoom link on the chat box.
The 8th principle discussion will start shortly after the service ends, so definitely join wherever you are. We are blessed to be one congregation in many places.
Una congregación in hostesses.
Uno congregación en muchos lugares.
As we prepare to end our service and enter into our afternoon, please join Karen and Troy in our chalice extinguishing words.
Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón.
We
extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts.
Here's a wave to everyone on our virtual church campus. And Reverend Tim, you have some reminders before we close?
I do. Give it up for Jamie and Lisa. And I just want to know how Karen and Troy managed to throw your voices from the corner coming up here. Oh, I love it. Virtual campus, 2 people in many places. That's what you are today. So, quick reminders. To exit safely during a pandemic, we ask that you allow those in socially distanced section to leave first through these doors where Nancy is, and then the rest of us just cross over and exit. It is still cloudy, but coffee hour will warm your heart. Get some coffee, and then we hope you will come back in for the 8th principle discussion and Q&A, a chance for you to add your voice to my very long sermon this morning. We need more words, yes, definitely. Please remember to pledge, and let's give our virtual campus the pledge address, pledge at uufresno.org. Beautiful. Last but not least, we like to welcome folks who are here for the first, second, or third time. We do it not to embarrass you. We're genuinely glad you're here. So on a virtual campus, would you just type your name if you're first, second, or third time visitor with us on virtual campus so we can welcome you here in the in the Alluvial Ave congregation campus. We invite you first, second, or third time to just rise for a minute. We won't leave you standing by yourself for long, I promise. Anybody? No, I think we're all, yay. Oh, wait, wonderful, hooray. We invite the rest of the congregation to rise with her and let us join together in our closing words and our sung benediction. If you're here with the pod, reach out and join hands. If you're not, hands across the beautiful pounding heart. Our closing words come from former First Lady Michelle Obama. If we ever hope to move past racism, it can't just be on people of color to deal with it. It's up to all of us, black, white, everyone. No matter how well-meaning we think we might be, we must do the honest, uncomfortable work of rooting racism out. It starts with self-examination and listening to those whose lives are different from our own. It ends with justice, compassion, and empathy that manifests in our lives and on our streets. I pray we all have the strength for the journey. Blessed be. Amen.
2, 3.
Go from here in peace, go with love. Go from here in peace, go with love. Go from here in peace, go with love. In love, go in peace.
Shalom and assalamu alaikum.
2, 3, 4.